Hello, my name is Kiriath, and today we're going to talk a little bit more about this whole War of the Spider thing, because I got somewhat blinded by my enthusiasm for the fact that War of the Spider sounds very much like it's referring to a particular person, which of course is Fabius Bile, because he's called the Spider. However, I discounted the idea of warp spiders getting anything because Eldar have already got something in Psychic Awakening. They've already had their time in the sun, so to speak. But the thing is, so have Emperor's Children. Unless Fabius Bile is going to split off and create his entirely own new unique faction of Chaos Space Marines that are unique from all of the Chaos Space Marines and Space Marines, which seems unlikely, the chances are it's not going to be him. So the question is, who is it going to be? Because I really found it not exactly a done deal, but it made the most sense for it to be something related to that. I mean, War of the Spider seems pretty clear cut to me, anyway. But no, it can't be that. It can't be that, because otherwise we'd be seeing a repeat. We'd be seeing a second coming for the Emperor's Children in the form of someone who, I mean, historically, for quite some time, has not got on all that well with them anyway. So what we're left with is the idea of possibly, War of the Spider being less about a specific person, or at least not that specific person, and more about a more kind of abstract way of thinking about it. And a lot of this is gleaned from the comments on yesterday's video about this very subject. So one of the most popular theories so far that seems to have come up the most in the comments is that, in fact, it's less to do with kind of specific the Spider and more to do with the Webway. See, Eldar, obviously, they use the Webway, Harlequins use the Webway, and Harlequins have not yet had anything from Psychic Awakening. Now, they are their own little faction, they are separate from Eldar and Dark Eldar, unless you mix them all together using Ynnari, which gets very confusing. I think you can do that, can't you? And the only other thing that would fit along with that particular thing would be Necrons. And of course, there is the fact that Necrons have a bit of the old insectoid look to them anyway. Also floated was the idea of Illuminor Xerath, which actually does make quite a bit of sense. I mean, I'm trying to remember how long ago it was now, but we were informed that there would be a new Illuminor Xerath model on the way. And it would be a big one, like significant upgrades, significant changes. He would be not what he once was, a proper upgrade to that model. In the same way that, Marnia's Calgar got bigger and better and stronger, and Abaddon got bigger and better as well. It seems very much like it might be something like that. Now, that actually is kind of an interesting idea, Necrons versus Harlequins in particular. I don't know whether it would be another three-way book, primarily because we are getting close to having every single faction represented in Psychic Awakening, and I suspect that the last one, I would assume anyway, although obviously assumptions are dangerous, that the last one would be a significant fight. I feel like, I think there's 5 factions left. We've got the Death Guard, we've got Harlequins, we've got Necrons, we've got Custodes. Oh boy. Oh, okay. Oh, I can't remember the other one. There is another one. There is another faction that we haven't had yet. But I feel like if we're going to see another big 3-way fight, it would be towards the end. It would be like the big culmination. I mean, Engine War is going to be pretty significant because there's 4 factions involved in that. So I think probably there would be a bit of a gap between a massive 4-way fight and then a massive 3-way fight. Although, that could be totally wrong. That's just more guesswork, although that's entirely what all of this is, let's be fair. But the idea of Necrons versus Harlequins is actually kind of, to me, that's a really interesting and a really, contradictory, conflicting kind of approach, because in terms of, personality-wise and makeup-wise, and just as 2 factions, Necrons and Harlequins are pretty damn far away from each other. I mean, Necrons are pretty unique in the grand scheme of 40k anyway, but Harlequins are a weird faction. They are a very weird faction in the best possible way, and the totally different approaches that those 2 factions take towards literally everything, I think would work really, really well for for one of the Psychic Awakening books. I mean, if we assume that, Fabius Bile is off the table because we've already had Emperor's Children stuff, and that is, ostensibly still where all of his stuff lies, what we're left with is the slightly more kind of abstract approach of looking at things like the Webway, or looking at, the Spider was one of the Satan, so it also applies to one of the Satan. There was one called the Spider, so I think actually it's looking increasingly more like it's going to be Necrons versus someone, but the question is who. And the thing that excites me about it being Necrons is, yes, I would have liked a new Fabius Bile, I would have liked new Noise Marines and all that stuff, but the new Illuminor Xerath model that was described to me, it looks like it could be something significantly different and something very interesting, and it could be potential for Harlequins to get some sort of update, some sort of character model, something like that, to be honest, anything Xenos, anything that gets Xenos more stuff, I'm not really going to complain about, because as a grand total, as a grand kind of collection of factions in 40k, they don't quite get the attention that we perhaps want them to get. But for me, having looked at it again, and having read all of you guys' comments and kind of done some poking around in some of the discussions that have come out of that video, I think you're probably right. I think you're right in that Fabius Bile is not going to be the focus of this, because he's already been technically sort of represented. If we do see an update to him, it would be from an Emperor's Children Codex, and instead it's going to be something probably Harlequin and Necron related, which actually would be really interesting to see. So maybe not initially what I was really hoping for and got blinded by in my enthusiasm for new Emperor's Children stuff, but still something that could be quite different. That actually could be really very different. The only other thing, you could loop Custodes into it with there being something to do with because there's a connection from the Webway into Terra, so if there's some sort of like mass invasion of although why the Necrons would invade, I don't know. It's actually way more tricky now. Now that the obvious one has been got out of the way, and it can't really be referred to as that anymore. Now we're kind of left with more different combinations going on, which I don't know. I quite like it when that happens. When you kind of look at a group that's left and go, who is going to be fighting? Who's going to be on whose side? How is this going to work? It's a nice bit of guesswork to have to go through in a weird way. So yeah, just thought we'd do a follow-up video talking about that a little bit more, because as pointed out, it's very unlikely to be what I thought it would be, because we've already had stuff for those factions, which is a shame, but there you go. It just means that we're going to see something different, which is not necessarily bad. We just have to see where it goes. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Of course, continue all of this in the comments down below if you've had any further ideas, any more thoughts as to what this could be, as to what the overall story could be, whether you do think it's going to be entirely Webway related. And, if we do see a third faction, what faction could that be outside of like Harlequins and Necrons? Then, yeah, let me know in the comments down below. Feel free to click all the things, Patreon, video, subscribe, all that stuff. And as always, there's an affiliate link in the description for Element Games, where if you buy stuff using that link, I get something to send you that way, and it's a nice way to support the channel because you're going to buy that stuff anyway, and some of it goes to charity at the end of the month. So you can do that if you would like. It's entirely up to you. I leave it in your capable hands. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.